Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SASS podcast. I'm your host, Dave Markel, coming to you from the Long Valley Studio in Washington, Utah. This is episode 146, and this week I'm honored to introduce you to Jessica Pride and Verna Griffin-Tabor. These two ladies are the co-founders of a new sexual assault and interpersonal violence treatment program, the Sirona Healing Center, located in San Diego, California. Some of you may remember Jess from episode 44 from 2023. Jess is a sexual assault civil litigation attorney, and she's teamed up with her longtime friend, V, in starting Sirona Healing Center. V has decades of experience in running a nonprofit sexual assault victims treatment center in San Diego County, and now has joined with Jess in creating their own support facility. Although Sirona Healing Center has only been open for the last couple of months, there's already lots of healing and support going on, with lots more to come. Here's Jess and V to tell us about it. I'll catch you on the other side. Hey, SASS listeners, I am extremely excited to have the two guests that are with me today. Jessica Pride, she goes by Jess, and Verna Griffin-Tabor goes by V. And the reason they are here is they are the co-founders of a new healing center called Sirona Healing Center in San Diego. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. We're so excited to be here with you today.
So excited for your listeners to hear about what we're doing in the event that anyone that's listening needs support or knows someone who needs support.
I'll start with you, V, if you would. Tell us about yourself. Give us some background as well as your version of how you and Jess got to know each other.
Happy to do that, Dave. For 25 years, I ran a nonprofit in San Diego called Center for Community Solutions, and it was a center for sexual assault, IPV, elder abuse, human trafficking. It's really crisis-oriented. It was wraparound with shelters and attorneys and therapists and outreach, and I had a passion for doing this work. Prior to that, I also had worked with rapists and pedophiles. I designed treatment programs for children, a long history of commitment to this work. And sometimes people ask, V, why are you so driven about this? Why are you so passionate? I think, Dave, I came to the planet to do this work. That seems like such a trite answer, but even as a child, my family would say I would run in when there was violence because I knew the violence was preventable, and that I knew as I got older and learned more that healing is totally possible. It doesn't have to define anybody. That's kind of my journey. My background is in criminology and social work and counseling.
As you were talking about that, with me and my law enforcement background, it immediately pushed my brain into asking, did you deal with law enforcement? With a criminology background, did your foundation also work with law enforcement in terms of receiving referrals and them pushing people your way?
100%. Because the center had been around for over 50 years, I came in and did 25 years of that operation. But we would do trainings for lineup for law enforcement. When somebody's sexually assaulted in San Diego, if they call the police, then it was our job to meet the police at the hospital for the exam. And so on many fronts, whether it was interviews after the sexual assault, in court, yes, we worked in tandem with law enforcement.
Well, tell us your version of how you and Jess met each other.
That one's easy. Thank you for giving me an easy question, Dave. Jess was the board president at Center for Community Solutions. Earlier in her career, she found us and took a deep dive and began to help us train a lot of volunteers who wanted to do this work. And Jess and I even attended certain conferences together. And so we both had a deep passion for doing this work and worked side by side. So we had a really good view of how both of us handled any complexities, any challenges. When you're dealing with trauma, there's bound to be complexities that come up.
Absolutely.
So we had almost 6-7 years of her being the board president and me being the CEO. And it was just an easy partnership from my perspective. And so when we began to look at things that are gaps in our community, gaps in the country, it was easy for us to begin to dream together. So that's what sparked this original idea of this healing center.
That's really great. Jess, you've been on the show before, so my audience may remember that episode. I'm going to turn it over to you now and have you give us some of your background to not only refresh the memories of the audience out there that's familiar with you, but also for those who haven't heard about you and what you do.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me back. I appreciate the new listeners. Hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Jessica Pride. I am a sexual assault attorney. What that means is I represent survivors of SA in civil court. I get them money for pain and suffering, medical bills, lost wages, having to relocate, all of those things. We hold perpetrators accountable. I know, as you know, Dave, that the prosecution rate, unfortunately, around the country, depending where you're at, is somewhere between 2 and 5%, which means in criminal court, people think, hey, I'm calling the cops. They're going to give it to the prosecutor. That person's going to prison and I'm going to get justice. And then they wake up and realize that's not happening because that's not the way the world works, unfortunately. And if you are one of the lucky people out there where the DA decided to prosecute, I'm so happy for you. But if you're the majority of people who called 911 had the courage to come forward and then unfortunately were let down by the criminal justice system, not because they don't care about you, but because the burden of proof is so high. Hi, welcome to the civil world. It's another option for you. It gives you a shot at justice. We only have to prove more likely than not, which means we're winning most of our cases over here, which is awesome. And how I got into this world. So that's what I do. That's what my team and I do. And then just through doing that, I decided, right, if you're having one full-time job, that's not enough. Let's do 2 or 3. So, right, I decided to volunteer my time and worked for our local rape crisis center, which was my part-time job, which is how I met V. And she said then one day at a conference, we were dreaming together about how do we do more for survivors? How do we help the world heal? Not just, how do I not be part of the solution, fixing the problem of justice, but then how do we help people heal? And we saw a gap in the system where, there was a really long line to get counseling, but we saw the research and her and I are at the forefront reading articles and talking to researchers and doctors and people who were saying, hey, the best way to heal isn't by just getting therapy, not just by CBT or EMDR, which is a fantastic way for doing therapy, but you have to couple that with wellness activities. You have to do that in conjunction with trauma-informed yoga or sound healing or Reiki or, whatever it is. And then you take that. And if you throw on top of that some kind of dietary approach, you do some kind of journaling, some way to work through these things together in a holistic approach, you now found a way where the research shows you have the highest rate of healing after a sexual assault. And I don't know why more people aren't saying that or talking about that. Just from my clients, thousands of clients that I've seen over the last 20 years, there's no place for that. It's like, hey, go over here and call this therapist. Hey, maybe you can find yoga, but when's the last time you saw trauma-informed yoga or trauma-informed Reiki or whatever it is? And so B and I went, let's create a one-stop shop. Why don't we have a place that makes easy? Because when you're in trauma, the last thing you're trying to do is figure out how to navigate the world of healing. Most people know that they've tried a therapist and they didn't like them. Or they found one and they're not trauma-informed, or there's a really long 4-month waiting list, or there's this or this, that. Well, call us. We got you covered. We'll do all the things. There's no waiting list. We just want to help you. We want to get you to a place where you don't have to worry about that. We can worry about figuring out how to help you through this world because it's scary. For survivors, a lot of times it's an end game for them, right? Their whole world just came down. If you're struggling just to call 911, how do you struggle to just help yourself? We're here. We want to be the person to help you get through it because Dee and I have been in this world for the last 20 years. We know what it's like. Speaking for myself, I know what it's like as a survivor to be in a dark place. And I just wanted to be the person that I wish was there for me. That's where we are.
Dave, we know it takes courage to reach out and get help, but we also know how devastating it can be to withhold and not tell anybody. It can do physical damage, emotional damage, and sometimes people don't experience the trauma immediately. Some do. Some they think they're doing fine, and then it feels like the bottom falls out. They're triggered. They're having flashbacks. We also know that many times colleagues, friends are asking questions that turn out to be victim blaming. And that silences people more. And the silence is really devastating. And we want people to know that we're here, we're available. We're only entertaining and doing things that are, as far as services, that are research-based, that we know couple really well to help calm the nervous system. And so we want people to know when they're ready, we're going to be here. What we offer is the best that we can find, both in traditional kinds of therapies and the holistic wellness therapies.
V, in your multi-years of experience, I know just from hearing you talk that a big part of your approach, and I know this is true with you too, Jess, I'm going to ask you both to address this, but I'm going to start with you, V. Tell us about becoming trauma-informed.
Absolutely. First, I'll start with saying, Dave, a lot of well-intended people out there are saying they're trauma-informed without really understanding the impact of trauma on our neurobiology, what happens in terms of the way we're processing, and what the brain actually does to protect us by scattering information. Sometimes people don't understand right after a trauma why the dots are not connecting, and it's really our nervous system that is protecting us from being able to take it all in at once. When we offer things like yoga or breath work, when you slow people down and you aren't trauma informed, you run the risk of being triggered, a flood of thoughts, panic. And in fact, when somebody is trauma informed, they'll talk you through it. They'll take time. They'll let you know what's going to be natural and normal. And they'll also teach you about breath work to really calm your central nervous system. It's really important that people really do understand the impact, biology, neurobiology, really know what's happening in the brain when that trauma happens. And also, it's important that not only the people providing it know, but that they let the individual, the survivor, know so they don't feel like they're crazy, so to speak, so they understand why they're having a flood of thoughts, why they might have panic, why they get triggered easily. And it is natural and normal, and we are here to teach you skills to way to manage it and be able to soothe the nervous system.
That neuroscience part is so critical, and it does my heart good to hear you say what you were saying in terms of what Sirona is going to have to offer in terms of both you and Jess. Jess, I know you've been through trauma-informed specific training. If you could, talk to us about your education on what it means to be trauma-informed, not only for you, but your legal staff too.
Right. I mean, I've done weeks of trauma-informed training, not to mention the daily training that I do in working with survivors and constant education through conferences and all the different webinars I've attended. What's amazing about Sirona is every program was created through a trauma-informed lens, going, let's do yoga, but how do we do it different? How does the survivor feel going through yoga? How do I feel at the end when they do the vinyasa? So the vinyasa is at the end of your practice, you would lay out in what we can call either a starfish pose. Well, what if you were sexually assaulted in that pose? How does that feel? Doesn't feel good. That feels triggering. So maybe we're not doing it that way. Maybe we're doing it in the fetal position on your side, or we're doing it in a child's pose, or we're doing something different that speaks to a survivor where they feel like they have agency and autonomy over their body and that they get to decide. We don't want to trigger a survivor. We want them to feel safe. And we want to meet them where they're at. So that really means understanding a survivor's story and then talking to all of the healers that are there to help them. And we encourage them to have a holistic approach where they all get together, the head of our wellness team, as well as our clinical director, and they all get together and they talk about a person and they say, okay, what happened to them? How can we help them? What's working? What's not? How do we modify? And how do we meet them exactly where they're at? And then how do we give them the opportunity to be part of the conversation about what would be meaningful to them? Because we have so-called a buffet of services. And just because we think some certain protocol or treatment plan would be ideal, it doesn't mean anything if the client doesn't feel the same way. They need a choice, because what we know about sexual violence is that they didn't get a choice. Nobody signs up for that. I really think the healing journey includes choices. It's about trust. It's about saying yes I want to do that. Yes, that feels good, or I'm not ready for that now.
Mm-hmm.
So we give our clients the opportunity to be part of the healing process. It is their journey, and we are here to serve them. We can advise them as to what we think is best, but at the end of the day, they're choosing. And their treatment plan is tailored specifically to them. That's the part I love about this, is that there is no one size or shoe fits all. It is very specific to every person, because we understand trauma. Because we understand that everybody's in a different place, and you got to meet somebody where they're at.
There's no cookie cutter approach. They're not going to get a set formula. They're going to be in partnership designing what really feels like it's going to be soothing and healing. And if they don't know, we give them the opportunity to try different things out. Even on our website, we have many of our providers talking about what they do and why they do it, and inviting people when they're ready, just to give them a taste of what we're doing, and also trying to do our part to mitigate fear in approaching getting support, because we know it takes a lot of courage to come forward.
That is so true, that courage part. I'm going to go back to that trauma-informed neuroscience piece and talk about a couple of people that I know that you know, Jessica, but I'm guessing, V, you would probably know these people too. One is Matt Stegner. I know both of you probably know Matt from New York, and he has taught classes at End Violence Against Women international conferences. He travels the country, doing trainings on what it means to be trauma-informed and trying to get law enforcement to do what they should be doing. But then there's Jim Hopper and David Lesak and Kim Lonsway, also from End Violence Against Women, and even Joanne Archambault, although she's not, Joanne is very trauma-informed, neuroscience-based trained also. And one of the things that we talk a lot about in the law enforcement realm of things, and that I would like to hear from both of you about this, is in the process of working with Sirona, when you have someone that's not fully aware of what's going on in their brain and in their mind, which are two separate entities. You've got the brain, which is the physical organ in your head, but your mind can take you places that your brain really doesn't have that much control over, but your brain takes you places that your mind doesn't have control over. How do you educate victims and survivors about that process and what they're going through? Because that was something you brought up, V, is that's an important aspect of this too, is making sure that your clients know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's really to talk people through some of the process of what gets, kind of taking the lead from the survivor, what they really want to know. And for us to be saying to folks, this is natural. Do you want me to walk you through part of the neurobiology of what happens, so that it makes sense to them why their thoughts are scattered? It makes sense to them that it was actually their body and their mind taking good care of them to scatter it and to not have it be sequential. And so really checking with a survivor, if they want to know more, there's some pretty simplistic things that we can take them through to talk about what happens in the front part of the brain, then what triggers. And I found that quite a few survivors really want to understand that, because they think there's something really terribly wrong with them.
Right.
They know they've been harmed, but now they don't understand why they can't think straight, why they're having flashbacks, why certain things are triggering them. And so to talk to people about what happens initially with the trauma, your neurobiology, and explaining them. And then the next step is why it's important to pay attention when they get triggered, and to give them tools that soothe the nervous system and explain what that's about with breath work and sounds and how it can service it.
Yeah. That's great. I'm so glad you mentioned all of that because it's right down the path of what I was hoping you would say. And it really further emphasizes what this podcast is all about, because I try to not only give victims and survivors a platform to tell their story if they want to in terms of getting along in their healing process, but also as an educational platform. And so I'm really excited to be available to you folks as a mouthpiece for pushing people towards the Sirona Healing Center.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you. And thanks for the compassion.
Well, I learned really early on in my law enforcement career, the more compassion you show, and you know this, both of you, from your work, the more empathic, sincere empathic. It can't be faked or staged. It's got to be sincere. That's when people start talking and feeling safe. And that's what you mentioned, is that safety feeling that they need to have in order to feel comfortable where they're at and to move along in that step-by-step process of healing. And not only healing, but you've said it both, and it's in your materials that you sent me, that sense of thriving. It's not just, let's get past this immediate trauma concern that I feel right now, but what's it going to be like a year down the road or 2 years down the road? And I think many clients will come to you that have been searching for something like this from years past experiences of rape, sex assault, and interpersonal violence. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing and phenomenal.
Thank you. It's an honor, Dave.
It's definitely a passion project. We keep thinking, what do survivors go through? How hard is that? How important is it to have a place for survivors to heal? To have a place where they're understood, where they're seen, where they have the opportunity, right? Sometimes it's all we need. We just need people to give us an opportunity, a place to find ourselves again. Because sexual assault, you lose yourself. It sucks. You're in the darkness, world's upside down, and you're just trying to find a North Star, something that rings true, some bit of hope that says maybe tomorrow I might be okay. I'm really a person who believes that we heal ourselves, but you need the tools. And if you don't have somebody to teach you the tools, to give you the place to find yourself and work through that, you're kind of then just going around in the dark in circles, hoping that maybe one day it works out, and that can be a long path.
Yeah.
And a painful one at that. The sense of hope, I think, is so important in the healing process. Besides safety and somebody really being authentic, like you mentioned, Dave, and really being present and just sitting with someone, not telling them how to feel, but being fully available and authentic. I think all of us can feel when somebody really does care or where they're giving us lip service. And I know the folks that we've been able to bring together to do this work with us, they're thrilled because now they have a whole safety net to pull from that they can support each other in doing this work for survivors.
Okay, now you're going to get me excited. I'm like, literally, we pulled the coolest group of people together and we are still compiling, but I feel like you attract the energy you put out in the world. You always say that, but God, we have the coolest group of humans who have come to do this work, who are, wait, I get to do my work, but only for survivors and through a trauma-informed lens. They're like, wait, what? And then we put them together and we have monthly meetings and they get to like talk about things. And then when they have a case, they get to collaborate. They love this sense of community and collaboration. They're all from all over California. And we had them come out of town to tape some stuff and work on some things with us and some trainings, and got to have the opportunity to go to dinner with some of the women who are from Northern California. And God, I was inspired. I was just like, wow. This is awesome. I'm just getting a dinner with you and I feel so blessed. They're just doing awesome stuff. We have a life coach. She's out in Northern California. When you're a survivor and shell shocked, you're thinking, what do I do with my life now? Maybe I can't go back to my job. I need to move. I need to relocate. Or, hi, I'm just trying to survive tomorrow, but what do I do with my life now? My life is completely upside down. How do I care for my kids? What's the next step in my job? There's a life coach. It's a life coach that will help you through that. Where you're trying to figure out what the heck happened in the next quarter, she will walk you through it. She will help you, give you goals and a plan. I mean, how magical is that? And not even a plan just to survive, but later a plan to thrive, to grow, to be something better than you were before. Everybody needs a life coach, honestly, whether you're a
Mm-hmm.
survivor of SA or just a regular human out in the world, we can all use a life coach. How cool that she is there to help you. We really are thinking about this process from all the different angles. How about dietary? You need help thinking about what food you should eat? Hi, we got you. So,
Right?
this is really a holistic approach, and there's nothing else like it out on the market, which is why V and I thought, let's dream. Let's
Mm-hmm.
dream. How big does the dream get? Let's keep going. I mean, we've got all kinds of other ideas of where this goes, but we're in phase one. So, we're going to go with phase one before we get you to phase two and all the awesome stuff that's coming next.
When Jess was talking about the life coach, when we started interviewing people, we're looking again for trauma informed. So this is a life coach who does breath work. This is a life coach who does meditation, grounding. And so it just got the synergy of what we're doing and the understanding when somebody's ready for a coach. The people we pulled together are so capable, so professional, so loving, and so caring about helping survivors. I feel so fortunate to work in partnership with them because they care as much as Jess and I do.
Yeah, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking you're absolutely right. What you're talking about is vital. And I'm so thrilled to hear you both talk about it with the passion that you're talking about it. And right now, we're talking about a situation that's virtual, right? You're in
Yeah.
stage
That's
one.
phase
And
one.
so talk about
Anywhere
how that
in
works.
California. So technically our therapeutic practitioners for their licenses, they are only allowed to practice in California. So we are focusing on California at the moment. So whether you're all the way down in San Diego or all the way up in San Jose or Oakland, California, we are here for you. It's virtual. We found that through the pandemic, most people are comfortable doing this virtual where people feel safe, where they can do it from the comforts of their own home on their schedules in a way that fits for them. Being able to do it on your own time, from your home, we found is probably the best suited way. Phase two, we are going to have an in-person center where people can come for a week or a month to stay. But this is what we found right now was the most immediate need and the best way to help survivors. I love the approach where we have all the different things. We were just talking about life coaching, where the part about we were talking too, but people don't know what they need or they can't put words to their trauma. Guess what? We got a somatic therapist. We actually have multiple somatic therapists who are just amazing, who will get you up and move. And if you've never had somatic therapy and realize just movement, your body knows. When your brain doesn't, your body does, and it'll know how to move and to flush out the trauma, we'll call it, or, be able to process it. I know the first time I ever tried somatic therapy, it was, wait, what? What am I doing? Why am I crying? Why is this affecting me this way? And it was such a natural, I don't know, releasing experience, kind of therapeutic, the way, crying makes you, first you're like, oh, I'm crying, but then you feel better about it. It really calms your nervous system. And we've got all kinds of options. And the beautiful part is you don't have to do it in a class where you're worried about seeing somebody see you ugly cry. You can do it by yourself at home, or we have group classes too, so that you feel supported, so that you know you're not alone. And the cool thing is everybody who's in that class is a survivor. They get it. They
Yeah.
all get it. They're there to help each other, and there's confidentiality. Everybody is there to support each other
Yeah.
and understands, like, let's do this, let's heal in private, but thank you for seeing me.
And validated for what you
Yeah.
experienced, you believed, and we know this is hard road. And when you were asking, Dave, our first phase, yes, is virtual of all of our services. The next phase will be intensive outpatient and a small residential program. Intensive outpatient will really be determined by what the person feels like they need. Do they need to come in 2-3 times a week? And if somebody needs kind of a safety cocoon, that's why we want to do a residential. It's not hospitalization. It's just a cocoon, people around the clock, their understanding and providing these resources.
And let's carry that a step further. You're in phase one, you're close to phase two, but you're also looking, according to your literature, at doing some retreats. Can you address what's coming up?
Yes, we're going to do day retreats, weekend retreats, And we'll be doing a day retreat in October where there'll be a series of the kinds of modalities that we're talking about, where it will be there to regenerate and help with the nervous system. So there'll be breath work, there'll be movement, there'll be somatic work, all at the pace that somebody wants to do. And I don't know if your listeners would want to know through you, or if they want to go to our website at SironaHealing.com, where we'll be posting not only the retreats, but the content and who's providing, and we'll get the best practitioners, teachers available. And then in January, we're going to do a weekend retreat from Friday to Sunday. Along the way, there'll also be trainings that we'll be doing for folks who are out there healing, whether it's licensed clinicians, whether it's yoga practitioners. We'll be intermittently doing some training for those folks to help them become trauma-informed, to be able to continue to spread that safety net for survivors. So our first retreat will be this October.
And I should say, too, it's in San Diego because we're from San Diego. So that's our home base. There'll be amazing things, like they said, everything from, breath work and sound healing to yoga. We'll also have therapy. We'll have one-on-one sessions. We'll have group sessions, a sense of community and an opportunity for people to have a place to talk with other survivors. We're going to have different offerings. And currently, we have breath work that we're offering every single month in person if people would like to come and attend that. We're just growing our offerings right now. We're kind of just working on our foundation things and we'll take it off from there. We want to perfect the things that we're good at. And then as we expand, do everything we can to give survivors a place to heal.
We're trying to build a partnership with UCSD Psychiatry Department to do our part. They're doing a lot of great research with PTSD. We want to do our part to stay on the cutting edge of, as things change or things improve, that we can offer the best possible practice to survivors. They deserve it, and we want to be able to do that and stay current and give them the most impactful kinds of support that we can.
Is there a minimum age for your clients to be before they are able to participate?
In phase 1, it's women 18 and above. And then we'll be looking at what phase 2 and phase 3. We also know that men end up being survivors of sexual assault, sexual violence, IPV. But phase 1 will be women 18 and above. And we will continue to spread that safety net as we're able to. We're trying to build a strong foundation and then go from there. Excellent.
And I'm assuming eventually it'll be non-binary in terms of gender issues and things along those lines, so that it's all inclusive. Everyone's going to be welcome.
Always. Yes.
At this point, if somebody does want to get involved, but they can't afford the services, what are you doing for people who are not as well off as others and maybe indigent, but need the help just as much? We are starting to try to raise scholarship money so that we can scholarship those folks who cannot afford the full or any of, and we're just at the beginning of doing that, but that is what we intend to do. That's awesome.
So we have a 501c3. There's Sirona Healing Center as well as the Sirona Healing Scholarship Foundation. We are raising money currently for that to scholarship people because we believe that all people should have the opportunity to heal. Really good clinicians out there are charging hundreds of dollars an hour. If we want to provide the best healing services that are on the market, we have to be able to make money to pay for those services so that we can provide that opportunity to survivors, which is why we created a for-profit arm of this. But we also realize that there's some people who can't afford that. It's expensive. It's expensive to go to therapy. When you think about the best therapists, they don't take insurance most of the time, and they're cash pay. So we created a dual model so that the people who can't afford it, fantastic, here's an option for you. But if you can't afford it, apply for a scholarship. We want to help you too if we can. We're doing both. We just wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to attract the best clinicians. Because if we were only a 501c3, we wouldn't have the funds to be able to attract them. They could go do it on their own or for someone else for more money. I mean, it's the way the world works. This is trying to merge that.
In my experience when I was running the nonprofit, we would have amazing therapists. They had families, they had children, and they would get offered from the for-profit world double or triple what we had the capacity to do. And so that was really the motivation for Jess and I to do for-profit and nonprofit. We tried to see if we could do a hybrid corporation. It doesn't exist in California. So we're a nonprofit and a for-profit.
Good. Ladies, this has been not only tremendously enlightening, it's also been fun and educational and inspiring that you have launched Sirona Healing.
It's great. I love what we've built, and I'm so glad to be doing it in partnership with V and the amazing healers at Sirona. It's really something special. It truly is a passion project.
We're really excited to do this. We know that survivors deserve it. It should be a civil right to heal with care and informed care. Dave, thank you so much for creating this time for us. My hope is that people who are survivors, who need support, if they want to reach out to us, or if they just have questions, they can absolutely reach out to us, because there's every single reason to be hopeful. Life can change. It can be better. You can't change what has happened, and you won't pretend that it hasn't happened, but life can be better, and it will be. And we just want survivors to know that.
Absolutely. Ladies, it's been an honor and a privilege to have you as guests today.
Our privilege and honor.
Just one quick shout out to the folks who connected us to you, and that's Baby Bird Communication. They've been by Jess and my side for over 20 years with the nonprofit and now with Sirona, and they care passionately. So just want to give a shout out to Baby Bird Communications here in San Diego. They're just rock stars.
Absolutely.
And you, Dave, thank you so much for your work and for the amazing interviews you do. I think it's so amazing that you give survivors a platform to be heard. I'm always in awe of the work that you do and you on a daily basis. And so just thrilled I get the opportunity to be here with you today. I really do appreciate you.
It's been nice having you back. Thank you for those kind words. That kind of thing just keeps me fueled to keep doing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate you. That does it for another episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SASS podcast. A huge congratulatory shout goes out to Jess and V for their work in starting the Sirona Healing Center, and my heartfelt thank you to both of them for being my guests this week and filling us in on what Sirona is all about. Keep up the great work, ladies. For my listeners, my call to action this week is for you to share this episode with everyone in your circle of influence. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform, give the show a 5-star rating, and become a follower of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories on Instagram. All of this helps spread the message of bringing justice to victims and survivors of rape and sexual assault. Another great way to do this is to start by believing. Whenever you hear a victim of rape or sexual assault, tell their story. Because we all know someone whose life has been impacted by rape or sexual assault. Be sure to join me next week for another powerful episode of Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SASS podcast. We'll see you next week.